Okay, so what we're going to talk about is signing a listing agreement. More appropriately, we're going to talk about getting an agreement ready to take with you, whether you're going out for a listing appointment or you are just going out to somebody's house and maybe thinking there's a chance that they might be interested in selling the home. Or in this case, we're going to practice writing a listing agreement. So we're going to go through all the steps on how to get from A to Z so that when you show up, you actually have it ready. So we're going to have an address in mind. So what we're going to use for this example is my current listing on 1956 Pioneer Trail, and that is in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. So I already know the owner. I've already talked to him. Let's say I talked to him on the phone. We got to prep our documents so that when we go out there, we're not going to be empty-handed. And in case he's ready to go, you got your listing agreement set. So the first thing I'm going to do when preparing a listing agreement, by this point, you should have some favorites set up on the top of your browser. If you're using other browsers, I can't help you. I use Chrome. So we're going to open up Stellar. I already signed in earlier, so I'm good to go. And I'm going to go to the matrix. So what I want to do is pull up the tax records so that I know I'm actually talking to the right person. The person who I've been in contact with is the only owner, or if there are other owners, that at least I know about it. So this is very simple. If you missed it, I went to Stellar, and on top we have tax. And right below in that drop down is Realist. So I use Realist Tax. You can use IMAP. They give the same thing, it's just different companies essentially. So when you click Realist, it takes you to the Realist tax information. So from here, if you have the address, you can just type it in on the top right. So 1956 Pioneer Trail. We're going to hit enter. And it's searching. And here we are. So I'm going to click the checkbox. It doesn't always pop this box up, but when it does, sometimes there will be like 10. Just find the one that has the right address and hit proceed. So this pops this up. This is essentially a file, right? Just like on your computer. So you double click it. You can double click anywhere along this line and it'll open up. So you can see on the top, it has the address, the county, the assessor's parcel number. I don't really know what the clip is. It's currently active. Like I said, this is my active listing. And then you got some information here: 3 beds, 2 baths, no half baths, square footage, the year it was built, the type. And then we can see the owner information. So in this one, it's actually an LLC. And in here, you can actually get, when it's non-owner occupied, you can find their mailing address. This guy, he doesn't do these all the time, so it's not his business. But a lot of times you'll see a PO box here or something. As you scroll down, you'll get all the information about the taxes of the property. So you'll get the subdivision, the neighborhood code, the township, the range, the section, the lot, all this stuff, the zoning type. All this stuff is right here, flood zone code. So when you enter the listing into the MLS, if it doesn't automatically populate, this is where you get all that information. And as you go down, there's the legal description of it. You see the previous tax information. Check that out. A 10% change year over year. That should tell you that it's not homesteaded. Because at homestead, when you have your property homesteaded, you're capped at 3%. As a corporation, you can't homestead it anyways. Excuse me. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep scrolling down all the way to the bottom. And this is important. So pay attention to this. Because at the bottom, you will see the history of what's been going on with it. So I sold him this house July 1st, 2025. I sold it from Edward Secavicus to Michael Richardson. And that time he had it in the LLC. He changed it from the LLC to his name in August, so the next month. And then a month ago, he changed it back into the LLC. For reasons, I don't know why, but that's where it's at. So this is important because now we know it's in an LLC, which means you need to put the right information on there. If it was just his name, then he would be the only signer. Since it's an LLC, he is the trustee of it. You need to confirm that, see if there's any other trustees on it. There's a little more steps to it because it's in an LLC. So the buyer name is correct up here. So it matches NSB 1956 LLC. So we know that's correct. The next thing we need to do is we need to prep our listing agreement. So form simplicity, if you don't have it, can also be found through the dashboard, the Stellar MLS. I have it saved up here. I have it favorited. If you don't have it there, I think you go to Stellar Products and should be here somewhere. Maybe it's my association. And there it is, form simplicity. So access this tool. You should save it to your favorites, and you should also add it to your bookmarks. So you're not going to have all these. So when you sign in for the first time, you're not going to have any of these recent transactions, okay? You're going to have nothing. So with form simplicity, it's through the Florida Realtors. This has all of our contracts. You have home, transactions, blank forms, my files, contracts, and templates. At home, you can hit start a new transaction, or if you don't have that, you can just go to transactions and you can start a new transaction. Now, I have these set up, these form packages, to make my life easy. You also need to set up your form packages to make your life easy. So what we're going to do is 1956 Pioneer Trail. I'm going to set the address for the transaction name as the same, but this is actually going to be practice 1956 Pioneer Trail. So you have a name and you have an address, two different things. The property type, see residential. If it were commercial, farm or ranch, vacant land, you would select the appropriate type. And then the transaction, again, is it a listing? Is it a purchase? Is it both? Is it a lease or a listing? Now, I'm not going to populate this package because I want to show you where to find everything. So this pulls us into the transaction. Think of this as a file on your computer, right? So you have your desktop, that's kind of your main home page, and then you can go in to different transactions. You can go into different people, and then you can add different forms. So in this case, we have the address, the residential listing, it's new. Before you add any files, what we want to do is we want to import property data. Now this is going to save you a lot of time. This is going to pull the owner information and the property information from the tax records so that you don't have to go through and add everything yourself. This is going to save you 20 minutes. So what you can do is if it's a purchase, you do the same thing, you just enter the MLS number. Since it's a listing, we'll go on the tax search. It'll be Florida property data. You can go based off the address or the assessor's parcel number. So we have to do Volusia County because that's where it's at. Just type that in, Volusia County. And since we have the matrix pulled up, the realist, we can just copy right here. So if that was a little fast for you, I went from form simplicity, I went up to realist because I didn't close it, and I copied the assessor's parcel number on top. I'm going back to form simplicity, parcel ID. I'm gonna paste it, find tax data, and look at that. Select. So this is going to give us all the information, the legal description, the county, year built, all this good stuff. So we're going to go to the bottom. And we're going to hit Save Information to Transaction. And you want to use the tax information. So now we have the transaction set up. We have their information in there. So now we need to add our blank forms. So the first things first is the sale of the property, the listing agreement. So you can go up and search. The search is going to save your life when you start knowing the names of forms. It's going to be listing agreements. So what we're going to look for is the exclusive right of sale listing agreement with consent to transition to a transaction broker. Now there's a whole bunch of different listing agreements that you learned about in your schooling. We want to use the exclusive right of sale because that allows them only to list with you. They can't list it anywhere else. It can't go to anybody else. Even if they sell it to their friend and don't include you, they will still owe you a commission by law. So we want the consent to transition the transaction broker so that in the event that you're hosting an open house and you get a buyer, you have the opportunity to become the transaction broker and collect both sides of the commission. So we're going to add that to the transaction. At this point, if there's any addendums that you know of that you want to add on here, this is a good time to do it. For Stellar, you need an MLS entry form. So that would be the residential data entry form. We're going to add that. So let's go in here and take a look at our right of sale agreement. So for whatever reason, this populated a buyer name of buyer unknown. This isn't perfect. So we're just going to delete that. Then we're going to go up to realist. So we went back up to realist. And we are going to take their name, NSB 1956 LLC. We're going to hit copy. We're going back to form simplicity and we're going to paste it. So that is the seller. Now the brokerage, this is not your name. This is the name of the brokerage, Realty One Group Inspiration. Now, if I'm going out there today, I'm going to put today's date. It doesn't matter if you're going to sign it or not. Always put today's date, just in case. And then termination date, I do 6 to 9 months, kind of depends. If you can get 9, great. 6 months is kind of usually where I end up at. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's call it 9. So on the termination time, or date, I should say, I like to put it over a holiday. So that way, if this ever does expire, nobody's going to be calling them on the day it expires to try and pick up this listing. Gives me extra time to try and save it in the event that maybe I just forgot and it lapsed, or I didn't update the MLS. This gives us plenty of time to get it sold. So Thanksgiving is somewhere in here. I think it's going to be the 26th this year, so we'll do the 27th. So reading this, the seller is giving us, the broker, Realty One Group Inspiration, the exclusive right to sell the real and personal property, starting this date and ending that date. So the next part is going to be the street address. Always double check these things. You're going to get lazy. You're going to miss something. Just always take a look. It takes you 1 second to read it. 1956 Pioneer Trail, New Smyrna Beach, Florida, 32168. Legal description. I've had this come up wrong, and you can actually see where it's cut off here. So this is not going to populate correctly. So what you need to do, there's a second line here right below it. You need to copy this. I actually will cut it, because cutting removes it. And then I'm going to paste it down here, because this is a continuation of this line. Now, if it's a super long legal description, you can add an attachment to it, which you would just click this box here. So personal property is going to be anything that's not nailed down. You know, if they were going to include the fridge and the washer and dryer, those are all things that could be included here. If they're including an electric fireplace, things like that, this is where you would put it. Part C, occupancy. It either is or is not occupied by a tenant. This one is not occupied by a tenant, so I'm not gonna check that box. If it is, very clearly, when does the lease expire? So the next part is price and terms, part 3. You might not know this yet as to what price you're going to be listing the house at. You're going to need to run a CMA for it, figure out what it's worth and what you want to list it at. In this case, I already have this property listed at $399,000. So we're going to go ahead and write that in. $399,000. Now, financing. So this is important because this is a question for the MLS. What kind of financing would you be accepting? Obviously, everybody wants cash. Conventional is probably A-okay unless it is completely destroyed. Then VA and FHA. So a house like this, you can see it's in good shape. It's been completely remodeled, updated. There's no problems with this house whatsoever. So that means it's not going to have any issues with VA or FHA financing. If you're selling like a fixer or like a condotel, or for whatever reason the seller refuses to look at FHA, just click off whatever box, doesn't work. Seller financing is the next part. If the seller was going to offer financing, this is where you would put it. I've done seller financing once in 6 years, and it was 6 months ago for this property actually. I wouldn't really worry about it. If you are doing seller financing or your seller is interested in doing seller financing, talk to us about it before you try to figure it out on your own. Same with the assumption of an existing mortgage. This is actually awesome. I've done quite a few of these. The buyer can take over the seller's mortgage in its current state, same money owed, or I should say amount due, the same rate, the same length, all those things, takes it over. But there's a lot of stipulations with this. Again, if this is something the seller wants to offer, talk to us about it. We'll kind of walk you through it. So seller expenses, these are things if the seller is going to offer something up front. Like let's say the seller, I want to offer $399, but I also want to do a $5,000 closing cost credit. You would write it in there. So broker obligations, this just kind of describes what our obligation is. I'm not going to read this to you. You can read this yourself. But you can see we are going to do diligent and continued efforts to sell the property in accordance with the agreement. Part 5 is multiple listing service. If you're putting it on the MLS, this is telling you what the MLS is, and it is telling you why it's a good idea to use the MLS. So part 6, broker authority. So this is what the seller is giving us authorization to do. Market the property to the public, what that includes. So you got a few other things here, check boxes. So part 6.4, or 6A4 I should say, display the property on the internet except the street address. So you may see sometimes on Zillow, it'll just be a house and it'll say address non-disclosed. You check this box to make that happen. It's kind of foolish to do that. You can't host open houses. You're really kind of stuck with a house that nobody knows where it's at other than the city and state. So it's kind of weird to do that, but some sellers are really private. So if you have somebody, like let's say Dale Earnhardt Jr. is buying a property in Orlando, or rather he's selling a property in Orlando and he doesn't want the address out there, that's how you would do that. If for whatever reason your seller doesn't want the house on the MLS, let's say it's a total fixer-upper, he doesn't want to do open houses, he doesn't want looky-loos, he doesn't want anybody coming through, he doesn't want pictures online, he's very private, so really it's going to be essentially off-market, you would check this box. So if you check that box, you need to know you are legally not allowed to put it on the MLS. So the next thing is, if you're not putting it on the MLS, you're not going to put a for sale sign in the yard. And that kind of handicaps us. So this is just restating, hey, if we're not putting it online, it's going to be a tough sell. So he's got to initial this. So this goes on to continue talking about our what we're authorized to do. We are going to use a lockbox system. Then as we go down, if you want to withhold verbal offers, or if you have an offer due date, like let's say you're pricing this thing to sell, you put $100,000 under what you think it's worth, seller wants it gone, you want a bidding war, withhold all offers until, we're going to withhold all offers till February 25th. That's when we'll make a decision. You would check that box. So it is allowing us to transition. Virtual office websites, this is like all the other ones. Realty One Group website, the Keller Williams website, everything on earth. I always check this box. Do not authorize an automated estimate of the market value of the listing. Why? Because if you go on Zillow, as you can see, you don't see the Zestimate. That's important because if we go on Zillow, some of these will have the property and then below it, it'll say the Zestimate. Like if it were right here, that's not good. You don't want that because the Zestimate doesn't matter. The Realtor.com estimate doesn't matter. Those things are completely pointless to even consider. So always check that box. We don't want to see that. And we don't want third parties to write comments or reviews of the listing. We don't want somebody else's words to describe your listing to a potential buyer. So always check those. So we have obligations to the seller has obligations to us. Read through this. Basically, the seller needs to do the things that he or she should be doing to sell the house. They need to make it available. They need to give us some keys. They need to actually own the property legally and have the authority to sell it. So there's a few things in here that they need to make sure they understand. Now for the big kahuna, the compensation section, part 8. So this is very clear. The seller will compensate broker as specified below if a buyer is procured who is ready, willing, and able. I know you learned about that in your classes. To purchase the property or any interest in the property on the terms of this agreement, etc. So what is our listing percentage? Listing percentages, your commission is not set by law. Realty One Group does not tell you what to do. You are in charge of your own commission, so you need to do something that makes sense. I shoot for 3%. This is specifically to you. This is not referring to any buyer's agent. This is specifically your commission, your money. So you could do 3% plus 10 grand. Get yourself a little bonus for getting it sold. Typically that's left blank. You typically are going to work a percent. If it's somebody you're working a deal with, like let's say, perfect example, let's say this is a regular customer for you and you just want to give them a flat rate. So instead of doing a 3%, hey, Mr. Seller, I know you're going to buy with me your next property, you're going to flip that and sell it with me, and then you're going to buy a new one, you're going to flip that, sell it with me. So if you're looking long term down the line and you want to give people a discount, just do a flat rate. Hey, you know what? We can do it $7,500. No more, no less, no matter the work. It's $7,500 or $5,000, whatever the case is. That's where you would do that if you wanted to do a flat rate. Options. I don't do options. I don't know much about options, so I can't really tell you anything about it. And I don't do leases, so neither B or C really applies. So if you do have questions, if you're looking to do options or you're looking to be a leasing agent, I can't really help you with it, but I'll do my best. So a little bit of information here. Broker's fee is due in the following circumstances. A, you sell it. Or B, you get it sold, but the seller refuses when it's ready, willing, and able buyer. But more importantly, what things get missed is number 3 here. This is an important piece because this protects you in case the seller cancels. So let's say the seller cancels today. Like I've had it listed for 2 months. He decides to cancel and then he calls. He got the info of one of the buyers who came through that I showed it to, and he sells it to them. Well, if you have something here written, then you're protected. So I always put 6 months, 180 days. After the termination date, if somebody comes through or if he sells it to somebody who had interest in the property that I had communicated with or showed the property to, we are owed commission. Clearly, if it's relisted to another agent, like let's say you take my listing from me, they cancel with me, you call the expired or the canceled, and then you get the listing and the same guy comes through and then he decides to buy it, that sucks for me. There's nothing to do. We don't do retained deposits. Commissions are not set by law. This is a notice saying that the seller does not have to pay the buyer's broker by law. but it is still pretty common. So if you are offering commission to a buyer, this part 10 is where it would come from. Now read this carefully, because if you don't, you may screw yourself. Part A seems like seller authorizes broker to offer compensation to buyer, broker in the amounts of blank. If you're not paying attention and you say, hey, 3% to the buyer's agent, and then you just move on. If you don't read this whole thing, you have fucked yourself. I mean, you go back and change it, but realistically, if the seller doesn't want to agree to it, if you continue to read this compensation will be set forth as a separate written agreement between broker and buyer's broker. So what does that mean? That means that you are paying the commission to the buyer, not the seller. So this is really important. So if you want to offer 3% to the buyer from the seller, that's part B. Seller authorizes broker to offer compensation to buyer's broker from the seller. So if you want to be the type of agent who says, hey, it's 6%, we split it down the middle, I get half up top, they get half down below, then great, you would do it here. For the vast majority of us, we're just going to do it this way. Or if the seller is not offering any commission, or likewise, they want to negotiate, it'll be there. In which case, the buyer's broker will still ask for 3%, and then the seller's going to hem and haw, whatever. So moving on to section 11, the brokerage relationship. This is notifying you that you are acting as a single agent. This is your basic stuff: honesty, fairly, dealing honestly and fairly, you're loyal, you're confidential, you're obedient, all the things you learned. Now, your consent to transaction broker. This one never populates for whatever reason. So you need to fill in our brokerage. You are consenting to transaction broker. Florida law allows real estate licensees who represent a buyer or seller as a single agent to change from a single agent relationship to a transaction brokerage, providing a limited form of representation to both buyer and the seller. This change in relationship cannot occur without your prior written consent. So if you do not get this signed, you cannot double end it. So you need that signed. Conditional termination. So this if the seller wants to cancel. I've always told sellers, hey, if you're canceling with me, it's because I'm not doing the job right. I'm not going to charge you a cancellation fee. We're not going to write it down. I would ask that you reimburse me for my photos and some of my expenses, but I'm not going to put that on paper. You know, if I do a really bad job or I screw something up and you fire me, hey, it's never happened before. And I intend to keep it that way. But in the event that that does happen, I would love if you could give me some money for my photos that I spent all this money on. If not, hey, I'm not going to write it down. This next part is pretty important: dispute resolution. So if the seller wants to sue the buyer, or the buyer wants to sue you, or you want to sue the seller, anybody wants to sue anybody, there's a process to it, right? We're going to go through mediation. Then if that doesn't work, we'll go through arbitration. If that doesn't work, then we can go to court. Whoever loses pays the winner's fees. I've never been sued. I intend to keep it that way. Miscellaneous, the agreement's binding. No prior present agreements or representations will be binding unless they are included. So essentially, if we talked about anything else not written down, it's not part of this. Additional terms, this is where you might put like no showings on Tuesdays, whatever. This is really just for you. If there's something specific the seller wants, like let's say No sign in yard that is red. Whatever it is, you can put additional terms here. There's a lot of space. This is where the seller's signature will be, the date, their information. If there's two, that's where it would all go. You can fill this in for them, or they can fill it out for you. This is the section that you sign and date, and then always remember to give them a signed copy. So if you're using Digisign, which you probably will be, I always just check this box, email, and then give them an extra date box down here. So you need to pay attention when you get this signed. They have to initial every page, and they sign the last one, and there's a couple extra initials in here. So for all intents and purposes, I'm going to scroll up here. This thing is ready to be signed. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it as a printout because I don't know how to save it to my computer from Form Simplicity. So we're going to go save as PDF. I'm going to hit save. In this case, I'm going to just put it in a random folder. Training, that's a good one. Practice. So I'm going to put here practice listing agreement. Cool. So we have the listing agreement done. We close out of it. There's a residential data entry form. We could grab our disclosures now if you want, but we're not going to go over that today. And we're not going to go over this residential data entry form. So I have it ready to go. So let's say it's time to sign. You didn't get a sign in person. They called you. Hey Phil, hey Jim, whoever. Go ahead and send it to me electronically. I'll read over it. I'll get it signed. You say, hell yeah, no problem. And then you call me and you say, hey Phil, how do I send stuff electronically? Well, it's pretty simple. You go to your zone. You should have this set up already. So we're gonna go to one zone. That's Realty One Group. You sign in. And then we are going to go to Sky Slope. Now in Sky Slope, we're going to go to Apps. We're going to go to Digisign. We're going to create a new envelope. We don't have a property made up because we don't have this set up in Sky Slope yet, so no property. So now we upload the documents. You go down here and hit upload. Now we got to find this thing. What the hell did I do with this? And we went to training. This is why being organized is important. You see how I have it? I have on my desktop, Florida real estate. I'm also licensed in other states, so I have to differentiate. I have buyers, sellers, sell bys, a whole bunch of other stuff. Everything you need to save, this is where you should have it, all in one place. So I go down to training, I go to my practice, there it is, my listing agreement. We open that bad boy up. Now it's uploading. We hit next. So on the left, we got recipients. Always include yourself. We're gonna put in a new recipient, Jimbo Slice. I guess in this case, it would be Michael Richardson, or it would be trustee Michael Richardson. But we're gonna go Jimbo Slice. because I like that name. I'm just going to use my email. We'll use p.g.launch. Need the sign. You got different options. We're going to hit need the sign. So then you got groups. If you just want to send it to everybody, I don't recommend just hitting next. Add signer group and move you to number 2. So now it takes us to the page. If you ever use Digisign or you're familiar with this, you probably don't need to go through this with me. But for the purpose of training, every page needs to be initialed, right? This is a good time for you to review, make sure you didn't screw anything up. Okay, got the right name, Realtor 1 Group Inspiration, the dates, yada yada, $3.99 cash. Okay, I did all that. Now for this, you want the seller, Jumbo Slice, initials, then you're gonna click. Now, if you wanna make it easy on yourself, go to yourself and add your initials. Now watch this magic right here. In Digisign, you have to click it or it'll just keep putting initials on here. You need to release it. Now if you select both of these, you can copy. I guess you can't actually click it. So if you go on here, you can control, oh, there it is. Copy. Now, if you go down to the next page and you hit paste, look at that. Boom. Now page 1, you got to remember we have some initials up here. So you got to drag them. Initial of the seller and get your initial out of there. So I'm going to paste again, Control V, for those of you who may not know how to use computers. Put them in the right spot, keep going down. I'm looking over 7,500 flat rate, 180 days, no retained deposit, no compensation to the buyer's agent. Control V. There we go. Realtor 1 Group. Oh, I need a signature here. So you go up, Jumbo Slice. And we put a date as well. Now, because he is in an LLC, his name is not Jumbo Slice. You need to go in here and put a text field. Jumbo Slice, trustee. Because he is not the owner, he's a trustee. And you can adjust these boxes. There we go, put that there. Same thing down below, you gotta get a signature. I would not copy and paste it because it's easier to just do that. Jumbo Slice, trustee. All right, continuing down, we have another initials for the dispute resolution. So we're gonna paste them down here and pull them up, because if you just paste them and then paste new ones, it goes in order. So he would have to sign the one below and then come back up. So we're just gonna do it that way. This is experience that I'm teaching you here. All right, and finally, we got signature, and we're gonna go one more time. Jumbo Slice, trustee. We'll hit it with the date. And then the address, email address, I'm not gonna deal with that right now. Then I'm gonna put my signature on there. Date, my name. And what did I tell you earlier? You need to put an extra date block on the copy return to seller. On this date, you need to put a checkbox on the email. Because once this gets signed, it goes to him. Now the box that everybody misses is the last page. You got to get those initials at the last page. Now you're all set. For you being a new agent, review this again. Don't send out a mistake. It is so much easier just to look, take 10 seconds, go through it again. Okay, I got my initials, I got the date, I got signature, name, initials here, initials. Okay, he signed, initials. Just go through it so that you don't have to call me, hey, Phil, hey, I messed up. I sent it to him. I forgot to do this. And he already signed it. What do I do? Not that it's a big deal. It's really not. But it makes you feel bad. So when you hit send, if you're just going to send it like this, I wouldn't recommend it. I usually do like listing agreement, 1956 Pioneer Trail. And then boom, send for signatures. So that's out, already in my inbox. So if I go to my Gmail, I'll find it in there. Boom, look at that. Phil Clonch requested your signature. It's a good idea for you to actually look at this so you know what the heck they're gonna sign. I accept, I agree. So Digisign, this is what it looks like. I'm gonna hit start. And then it's gonna have me pick my style. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna hit all these. I'm just gonna do what most sellers do and just click everything. Like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Look at all these freaking signatures. Oh my goodness, come on. All right, boom. So Jimbo Slice is signed. Now, since we've made those two groups, that is gonna go to Philip Clonch RE, my main email. So I'm opening up my other email. You can see it takes a few seconds. There it is. So this is the new one that now has Jimbo Slice's signature and email, or signature and initials. So I'm gonna hit start. I'm gonna do the same thing. Boom, I already looked over this 20 times. It always does that for me. It skips over an initial for whatever freaking reason. That's good. And it takes me back up to the top. Now I can finish. So there we have it. It's signed. We are going to get a copy sent to us from Digisign. And with that, you're gonna upload that to SkySlope. If you do it by hand, I highly recommend you go through and highlight every spot on there so that you don't miss anything. Or get those little tabs that say sign here, initial here, and put those all over the place. So that's what I got for you. This is a long training. It's a lot of information, but you read through this a few times and you will become proficient at writing a listing agreement. This isn't where it ends. You still have to go over disclosures, addendums. We got to talk about offers, like how to review them when you get them. There's a lot more to it, but this is a good start for you.